Hey guys, I'm coming on this morning to just kind of talk a little bit about some things I've learned dealing with jealousy. I know you're looking at me, you probably would never think that I was somebody who was jealous. I know this is getting a little vulnerable, but I think one of the things that I found with jealousy is I think sometimes it creeps up when you're in environments, and it's one of those things where it's like you start to feel like the environment that you're in is not your space, right? Like, let's say, for example, there's a group of girls and these girls may not like you, but they like your friend, right? Or I think that's the start of it, right? And so you grow up and you start to just kind of always feel like there can only be one. And I even look at this within the Black community and just how sometimes our school system is kind of like structured. So like, for example, if you go to a public school, sometimes there are teachers who will take a liking of one kid, whether that kid has more resources, right? Sometimes it's the kid that's usually like well kept, they have mother and father, or the mother, is doing her big one, and the kid is well kept, they get good grades, and they just are a popular kid. And so you see a lot of teachers gravitate towards them. I think that can create a lot of jealousy in other people because teachers maybe not be fond of them. And I think that type of attitude, like that type of behavior that you witness, can really foster feelings of jealousy as you grow older. And it kind of fosters this idea of like, oh, there can only be one, right? And because in the Black community, you don't really hear about, you kind of hear about like, okay, yes, this person went into science. Yes, this person went into X, Y, and Z. Yes, this person is working on freaking cancer cells and beating cancer, you know what I mean? But it's like, you really don't hear about that. So a lot of times you always think that, oh, okay, it's going to be like the entertainers and things like that. And I think that this is also kind of what creates a lot of jealousy and envy for a lot of Black people. I was reading this column, and it was just talking about how, what did the column talk about? Oh, it just talked about like, how those who are most popular within the Black community are people who, push materialism or, rap or whatever the case may be. And I want to break this down in a way that makes sense because I was just thinking about it this morning. And I was listening to a breakdown of They Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar. Donnell Rice was doing one on Instagram. I'm a little late. That's an old post, but and I'm sorry too if I sound so groggy. Guardian drinks some tea. I'm like congested. We got the allergies going. It's just crazy. Hopefully we get that out. All right. So, okay. So in the Kendrick Lamar video, in the video with Donnell Rice, he was just breaking down like, a lot of people culture jockeying, etc., etc. And reading the essay, and just how there's so many Black people who maybe don't fit into the mold of like the ghetto stereotypical Black person, and they just may not come from those environments, and how they feel like there's not equal opportunity. And I don't know if that really kind of just boils down to jealousy because they feel like more people don't gravitate towards them or whatever the case may be. But I can definitely say one of my biggest revelations as I was even sitting there with those two pieces of art, the essay and then the breakdown on Instagram from Donnell Rice, it just made me realize like the importance of staying in your own lane. Like, this is why you really just have to stay in your own lane. You know what I mean? Like, you can say it's unfortunate that a lot of people do resonate with, deprivation and things like that. I think every Black person goes through their own unique struggles, but we understand that that's not for everybody. I actually had a comment on here and somebody was saying like that was never their story. Like, girl was giving Huxtables where I grew up. Where y'all from? So it's like, it's not everybody's tea. I know for myself, I've had certain privileges in my own life. So there's that on that. But I think the reason why this does create such jealousy and envy is because depending on where you are, like if you are in a city where there's a lot of poverty, you may struggle to kind of build people who can kind of resonate with you. Like, you may have to move to a city where there's more progressive Blacks, where there's more wealth for African Americans. And I think for a lot of Black people, not every Black person comes from the hood, but I think there's a lot of people who do start in those communities, and it's kind of hard to build up your audience, especially if you're not moving around, you're not moving and shaking. You know what I mean? Like I said, sometimes you have to go to more progressive cities. I always say that I think geographically, demographics play a huge role. But I don't want to veer too far left from the topic of this video. So yeah, I think that that's been like a huge thing for me. Like I realized like I never, and I think even just in that, it just makes you so ugly. You know what I mean? I think it makes you so ugly. But I think it isn't until y'all, I should do this video, honey. Girl. I should do this video another day. But it really isn't until you come into spaces where you find your own. I always kind of struggle with this. And I think every Black person who struggles with this, who can't fit into the certain stereotypical mode of like, you know, and when I look at cultural appropriation, I'm never going to justify cultural appropriation. So that is not at all what I'm saying. But in the breakdown with like the Kendrick Lamar and everything, I completely get why so many people would even go to such extremes to lie about where they come from. There's something about the status, the camaraderie, the community, and the support and even economic backing that comes from having a story of deprivation, that comes from crafting a life of like struggle and nothingness. You know what I mean? That just gets you so many things, you know what I mean, that I would say that humans need as far as like being social and, you know, pair bonding or whatever, that it is like, you know what I mean, it's almost like infectious, and it's something that is really insidious because that's the way in, you know what I mean, that's the way in, that's the way through, you know what I mean. And especially when we're living in a day and time with social media where everything's about likes and clicks. So if you can get more engagement, which is pretty much what I'm saying when I name those 5 things, right? You can get this engagement. It's like you can actually start to capitalize off of this. You know what I mean? So it's very, very lucrative. I think a bigger question for me would be why, right? If we know that not every Black person comes from the hood, which we can clearly see from these stories, why is this one specific storyline, this one specific path, this one specific way the most lucrative, right? We can look at this and have a lazy way of thinking and say, obviously, it's stereotypical. It resonates with most people's ideologies and how they depict Black people. It is the American depiction of Blackness, right? In a lot of ways, there's a lot of truth to it. But if we know that there have always been Black people, Black elite, Black bourgeoisie, like there's always been Black collegiates, right? Not always, but we're at this place now where there are a lot of people who are the byproduct of those generations of Black people who actually did succeed at upper mobility and did have a little bit of attainment of the American dream. So why is this storyline still the main thing that begets all of the things? And so when you start to look at it like that, it makes you question, right? Why is it that this only one way begets everything over here? Whereas, okay, if you maybe grew up in a different neighborhood or you maybe went to, you know what I mean? It doesn't come with those benefits, right? A lot of times it actually comes with envy, people thinking you're arrogant, you being somewhat dislikable, and sometimes feeling a little bit unrelatable. You know what I mean? So why is that, right? One thing I've kind of found even in my own space is that for a lot of Black people who find themselves in a space, you start to study African American culture, you want to advocate on behalf of your people. The people who want it and probably need to hear it don't really care to hear it, right? That's not their audience. They don't want it. And so you find yourself in this very odd place. I want to say juxtaposition, but I don't even think I'm using that word right. So let me not get too crazy. And if I am, yeah, got to have that conflict. But you find yourself in this weird place, like this juxtaposition of like, okay, you know, I didn't maybe grow up in this space. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's what I was saying. You find yourself in this very weird place, right? As a Black educated scholar, collegiate, you come from a, you know, I want to say Black bourgeoisie, but like you come from that background, you know what I mean? You're blessed, you have certain privileges, your life doesn't actually mirror the Black struggle. So it's like, you'll find yourself in this space, this juxtaposition, that's what I was saying. And it's like, okay, I'm around all these white people who actually understand what I'm saying, right? And I'm not going to say that's not to, let me clarify, that's not to compare that Black people don't understand what you're saying, because quite contrary to what people believe, a lot of Black people, even if they don't have college degrees, whatever, they know what's going on. And they're actually pretty smart. So, I think we also kind of have some myths about intelligence. And y'all know I did a whole podcast episode on that. So we'll just leave that there. But you'll find yourself in a space where it's like, okay, you're learning and you're advocating on behalf of the people who are in the ghettos. You're studying, you're looking at the back end, the logistics, the operations, the history, and you're wanting to bring it forth and advocate on behalf of your community. But your community doesn't really want that. They're not receptive to that. And that is not going to get you the camaraderie. That's not going to get you the community. That's not going to get you the economic status. And it's not going to get you all those things, right? But at the same time, the only people who seems to really listen and admire your intelligence are white people. So it's like, what do? You know what I mean? Like, you find yourself in such a weird space. And that's why I was saying it's juxtaposition, because it's like, what do we do? You know what I mean? So I think that this is in part why a lot of people feel like there's not enough for Black people. Or and I don't want to, because here's the thing too. I talk a lot about Black people because I'm Black and I'm in it. And I don't really do a lot of studying on Caucasians and like white culture. I don't really get into it that much. Outside of like historically colonization and things like that, and just kind of noticing how it is a little bit more uptight, you know what I mean? But I wouldn't say that, and I don't think anybody does, right? Because I think that this is the thing of white supremacy, right? You don't actually look at white people and study white culture and be like, this is a culture, they are unique, they have different ways of being and doing, and they have different paradigms that reign within their culture, right? Different values, attitudes, standards, and beliefs that are also upheld. We don't look at it like that. And that's because of white supremacy. So I can honestly say, when I talk about Black people, just want to make that very clear. I personally don't get that. I don't really study too many other cultures, but I do look forward to continuously learning about my culture because I just think there's so much. But I do look forward to getting to a point in my life where I actually start to learn about other cultures. Asian, everything. So I'll just say that. But yeah, so I think that that's actually what begets scarcity. And I think that is what, because here's the thing too, right? There's always like one person who comes out with a mode or a model of a way of doing things, and then everybody else just kind of falls after that. I've seen content creators be like at the head of their content, and granted, these people have been online doing what they're doing for a very long time, so it doesn't really give in the comparison competition, like it gives this person literally worked for it and they deserve it. But it seems like everybody else who comes after that person seems to kind of just mimic that person's whole thing. And so that also makes me question, or at least to me, and I think to other people, that may also communicate this very scarce belief that there can only be one. Because the person after that, they usually don't do as well. But yeah, so and when you say, focusing on yourself and overcoming envy and like focusing on yourself, I think that that's the solution, right? I think that's the solution. But I will say that you come against so many different comparisons on your way, or even just in life and being who you are as a person. I think that there's just so many expectations. I think even when you take group A, right, there's so many expectations for group B to be like group A. And so group B works tirelessly proving to people that they're not like group A. Group A works tirelessly to prove to people that they are like group B. You know what I mean? And so it's like you kind of just find yourself in that space, and it's continuous. So that's just kind of like what I'm going to say is my morning breakdown of like jealousy. I don't know if this video is going to be called, but I do think it's real. And I think, we talk about creating a space for yourself. I do think that if you are someone and you're creative, such as myself, if you can create like an online community for yourself, if you have friends and people who are like into what you're into, that's great too, which I think too, this is another thing, because we love to preach this, right? I don't know if we actually believe it, but I don't think we carry ourselves and we actually practice it, right? Let me say that. I don't think we practice it, but we like to say everybody's unique. Everybody's got something X, Y, and Z. I don't really think we put it into practice, because it seems to me that instead of actually helping other people find what that is, a lot of people are more so invested in those people building your gift and building what it is that you're into, right? Like, I don't really meet a lot of people who preach this idea of like, oh, you know, it's something for all of us out here, and they actually spend the time helping other people recognize and cultivate that. Now, granted, that is a huge responsibility, and I would actually say that that's like a purpose, right? Which I feel like that is a little bit of my purpose, but I wouldn't say that's everybody's purpose. So please don't let me project. You know, it is on each person to kind of figure out what that is, but at the same time, I feel like people who preach this message really practice using other people's gifts for the benefit of themselves and to continuously build what it is that they're building. Like, they're not people who actually take the time to set aside or to really help other people. Now, please understand there's nuance in even what I'm saying, right? Like, nobody can build anything for you. Nobody, like, you have to be the one who's doing the work. But what I found for a lot of people is, I mean, I'm just talking about even helping people, like investing in people, whether it's sharing your knowledge, whether it's, you know what I mean? And really staying on top of people, not on top of them, but like mentoring them and being a friend, right? Like, people will take lunch with you, but a lot of times it's giving gatekeep. It's giving, oh, well, what did you build? What did you do? And it's like, clearly I don't know how to build the thing. That's why I'm having this conversation. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's really no, again, group B, there's no community there, right? But with group A, they have people who can relate to the story. So maybe they will help push the streams and help build this person, right? They're willing to come alongside, but this person here is like, you got to figure it out. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I did it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I know that part, that didn't really make a lot of sense, but I just feel like that's something that I noticed with a lot of people. So, you know, it's different for everybody, but I definitely believe that, like, in order to really build, like, in order to combat jealousy, you have to have something for yourself. You have to have a space where, I want to say, you reign. You know what I mean? Like, you reign. And if we're going to put ego aside, let it be the space where God shines the most through you. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have your own thing, you know, whatever it is, like, if it's science, you know what I mean? If it's fact, like, you know what I mean? Like, it has to be your own thing where you are really doing what it is that you love, and it's something you're good at. And you may not make a lot of money at it, but if you're able to build something and like there's a little bit of recognition, you know what I mean? Then that's gonna help you really overcome envy. But yeah, I think overall, like, I think that's pretty much it. But I think that's pretty much the video. That's pretty much the video. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I kind of feel like this was a really good breakdown of like jealousy, and in a more, now I say in a different way. I feel like I kind of explained it in a different way. But yeah, I definitely think it comes up when you have people in your life who don't see you. You're, you know, kind of like in the wrong rooms, which I will say too, before I end, you kind of have to check that too. Like, oh, I'm in the wrong room, because, you know, one thing I realized is like, not everybody's going to be fond of you. Not everybody is checking for you. Not everybody cares. You know what I mean? And we're not always right. You know, like, sometimes we can really be missing it. Like, we're not always right. I just think what really sucks with the whole thing, like the complexities of being humble, is that you can, and I don't know if this is just a Black woman's experience, y'all let me know in the comments, but there's really something complex about being humble, and always being willing to sit at other people's feet, right? And I don't know if this is just my experience, you know, hey, you know, but there's really something in people really like making you a tree stump. You know what I mean? There's really something in people shaving down, you know what I mean? I don't want to say your trunk or whatever the case may be. I'm thinking of a tree, but there really is something in that. People breaking off your branches, right? There's really something in that. You know, so you really have to be careful with that, because I used to be someone, and I'm still this way. I love learning from people. You know, I'm not always necessarily assuming people know more than me, but I just feel like because everybody is unique and people have their own different experiences, I love learning. So I'm always willing to kind of just sit at the feet of people and just listen to what they have to say. And you know what I mean? I'm always willing to self-reflect and take a step back, because I don't always get it right, and nobody does. But I just feel like there's really something dangerous in like the humble piece. So I will say respectfully, I completely understand why there are some people who are like, oh, we had a little phase where people was like, I'm done being humble. I'm done being humble because, you know what I mean? Because I get it. Like, I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if it's just a Black woman's experience. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about people who will take your humility, right? They will take that and then they will just pretty much make you less and less, or you know what I mean? Like they're gonna make you a tree stump. That's all I'm gonna say. And I hope you guys got something from this video. Bye. Have a great day.